Imagine it's the early 1900s, a time of industrial revolutions, towering steam engines, and scientific breakthroughs. Now, picture humanity turning its gaze not just to the skies, but to Mars. Instead of building railroads across continents, we're building rockets to another planet. What would life look like if humans colonized Mars a century ago? Could our technology have supported such an ambitious goal? And how would it have changed the course of human history?
Imagine a time with brass-bound dreams, steam-powered rockets and Martian schemes. A century passed, humanity dared to conquer the red planet. Were we prepared? Welcome to Did You Know? We're here to explore alternate timelines and so much more. Could the 1900s have reached the stars to build a future on red sands of Mars?
Welcome back to Did You Know? If you're new here, this is the channel where we tackle the biggest what-ifs and explore the wildest alternate histories. Today we're heading to Mars, but not in the 21st century. We're rewinding time to imagine what might have happened if humanity had prioritized space travel in the 1900s. Stick around because this story is about to take off. Let's start with the challenges. In the early 1900s, humanity's understanding of space was, well, pretty limited. We didn't even know if Mars had life or liquid water. Our telescopes were good enough to show surface features, what looked like canals, leading some to believe an advanced Martian civilization might already exist. Imagine the excitement and the fear of traveling to a planet where we might not be alone. But let's say humanity decided to go for it. The technology of the time relied heavily on steam, coal, and rudimentary electrical systems. Rockets were still in their infancy, but pioneers like Konstantin Tsiolkovsky were already theorizing about space travel. Imagine early space programs powered by steam propulsion or massive coal-fired engines. It sounds absurd by today's standards, but with enough determination and resources, it might have been possible. Now, let's talk about the journey itself. Mars is an average of 140 million miles away from Earth. In the early 1900s, a journey like this would have taken months, maybe even years. Imagine a spaceship built like a steamship, with reinforced metal hulls and crew quarters that look like something out of a Victorian novel. Passengers might have packed trunks full of canned goods, coal for the engines, and maybe even a gramophone to pass the time. But what about surviving on Mars? The early 20th century was an era of exploration. Think Arctic expeditions and voyages to the deepest jungles. Colonizing Mars would have been the ultimate test of endurance. Early settlers might have built habitats underground to protect themselves from radiation and freezing temperatures. Imagine domed greenhouses filled with earth plants, powered by early solar technology or steam engines adapted for the Martian environment. Life would have been harsh, but if humans survived the Antarctic, who's to say they couldn't have survived on Mars? Here's where it gets interesting. How would colonizing Mars in the 1900s have changed human history on Earth? For starters, the geopolitical landscape would have been entirely different. Imagine nations competing not for colonies on other continents, but for territory on another planet. The space race wouldn't have been about Cold War rivalries. It would have started decades earlier, perhaps with the British Empire trying to establish Martian outposts before anyone else. And then there's the question of culture. Imagine Victorian-style architecture on Mars, with massive iron structures designed to withstand the harsh environment. A Martian colony in the early 1900s would have reflected the aesthetics and values of the time: grand, ornate, and perhaps a bit impractical. Over time, the isolation of life on Mars might have led to the development of a unique Martian culture, distinct from Earth. Language, art, and even fashion could have evolved differently, shaped by the realities of living on a distant world. But let's not forget the technological implications. If humanity had focused on space exploration in the 1900s, advancements in science and engineering would have been accelerated. Think about it. To colonize Mars, we'd have had to solve problems like energy efficiency, life support systems, and sustainable agriculture. These innovations could have trickled back to Earth, transforming industries and improving life for everyone. Perhaps we'd have developed renewable energy technologies a century earlier, or found ways to combat climate change before it became a crisis. Of course, there's a darker side to this alternate history. Colonizing Mars in the 1900s would have required enormous resources. Entire economies might have been redirected toward space exploration, potentially worsening inequality on Earth. While the wealthy elite built their future on another planet, millions on Earth might have been left behind, struggling with poverty and industrial exploitation. It's a sobering thought. Would a Martian colony have united humanity, or deepened the divides that already existed? And what about the long-term consequences? Would a colony established in the 1900s still exist today? It's possible that early settlers, faced with harsh conditions and limited resources, might have failed to sustain their civilization. Or, on the flip side, they might have thrived, creating a Martian society that eventually surpassed Earth in technology and innovation. Imagine a world where Martians return to Earth, not as visitors, but as leaders, bringing advanced knowledge and perhaps even looking at Earth as a place to colonize. So, what's the verdict? Could humanity have pulled off a Martian colony in the 1900s? And if we had, how would it have shaped the world we live in today? Let us know what you think in the comments below, or a cautionary tale of what happens when ambition outpaces wisdom. So, what do you think? Would early Mars colonization have been humanity's greatest achievement, or its most spectacular failure? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your take on this alternate timeline. And don't miss our next video, where we turn the lens back to Earth and ask, what if the British Empire had never existed? How would the world map, culture, and history be different without one of history's most influential empires? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it.
Imagine no empire, no British reign, no red coats crossing the plains. What if history took another road? A world without the Union Jack to hold goodbye to did you know? Let's dive inside to a different timeline where futures collide. Would the world be better or chaos unfold without the British Empire stories told? Goodbye to did you know? Let's dive inside to a different timeline where futures collide. Would the world be better or chaos unfold?